All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the second session, the second feedback session of the themedattraction.com Student Showcase. Special thanks to Nate and Jesse for organizing this entire program year over year and keeping it going. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of coordination, and we appreciate them. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then let's go around the panel here real quick and introduce our panelists so we can appreciate them. I will just go in the order of my Hollywood squares here. First up to my right is Louis Alfieri. Thank you very much. Louis, please say hi.
Hi there, everybody. Louis Alfieri, Principal and Lead Creative Officer for Ravensun Creative, formerly of Universal, and worked at Vorec also, as Tina mentioned earlier. And it's a pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to review your projects and spend some time with you.
Thank you, Louis. Very much appreciated. We're going to keep going here to Tina. Tina, please say hi, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tina Mullis. I'm a creative director here at Vorec in wintry Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's right now blistering hot. I've been with the company for more than 18 years. I started off in graphics and kind of worked my way through. I've been a creative director here for a little over 10 years now. And yeah, Louis and I kind of, I think, crossed paths maybe years and years ago. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tina. And next up, we have Logan. Logan Zawicki from Sally Dark Rides.
That's right. Yeah. Logan Zawacki here from Sally Dark Rides, project manager. I'm currently in an undisclosed hotel somewhere in the Asia region. So it is 1 a.m. my time. Let's do this.
Thank you, Logan. We appreciate your dedication to this program. Some of you may know that this program was kind of developed and coordinated with a handful of academic consultants and partners, one of which is myself, Jamie DeRuyter from Ringling College. I'm happy to have participated in helping Nate and Jesse get this thing rolling. And one of our other academic partners is here with us today, MK Haley from UT Austin. MK, hello. Thank you so much for being here. Please say hi.
Good day, y'all. I am an academic, many years in the industry, and just think of me as your Nana. Any questions, anything at all you have about success advice, come to your Themed Attraction Showcase, Nana.
That is perfect. And Nana Haley is going to make you eat your vegetables, which I always love about MK. Awesome. So some of our other academic partners couldn't join us today. Christian Rogers has been helping us develop the program from Purdue, and Peter Weishar from UCF. So we appreciate him as well. And I see Heidi here on the call with us. Heidi, thank you for joining us here today. You are muted, Heidi, but your spirit is coming through loud and clear. Okay, let's see. So I think that takes care of the panelists and academics. So for the students in the room, I'll offer up a couple words of advice. Take notes. You're going to hopefully hear some great feedback, little nuggets of wisdom. I would encourage you to pay attention to everybody else's review because all of this feedback is valuable. If you're an engineering student and somebody's getting feedback on story and art, great, that's still awesome information. You want to just kind of soak it all in. This is incredibly valuable info here. You can certainly engage with the panelists when your project is up for review. You can ask questions. This can be a dialogue, a back and forth. So if you have questions or comments, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and jump in and say, excuse me, and ask a question or offer up a comment. Try not to use up all of the airtime. You certainly want to let your panelists deliver all their feedback to you, but this is meant to be casual and engaging. So please go ahead and engage. And I just saw a chat pop up and MK is saying, yes, LinkedIn. Highly recommend that everybody on this call link in with everybody else on this call. You're now networking. You're now meeting people in the industry. That's one of the most valuable things you can get out of this program. And when you do LinkedIn with folks, add a little note in there. Just say, hi, thanks for your feedback on the themedattraction.com showcase. Appreciate the connection and start a conversation. Okay, next up, last note for me before we get started. I'm going to kind of go in somewhat of a random order, unless you have some kind of time commitment that means that you need to go at a specific time or get off this call. My colleague here, Juan, has a meeting at 1, so we're going to make sure Juan's project gets reviewed before 1 o'clock so he can get off the call and attend his meeting. If anybody else has a special need to get out of here on a particular time, raise your hand, drop a note in the chat, and we'll try to get you in there first. Great. So I see Biz has to get off before 1:30, and Megan has a final exam at 1. Wow. All right. Awesome. Happy summer. Final exams in the summer. Yuck. Okay, sweet. So then let's get, congratulations, Megan, last semester. Awesome. Let's go ahead and I'm going to share screen. I will scroll through the projects and just provide a kind of a visual, while we're chatting. I'm going to move all of you Hollywood Square folks over to my second screen. We'll share screen and let's get Biz up first, since Biz has to roll. And let me make sure I find Biz's project here. Okay, screen sharing coming up. Sharing is not turned on. Nate, give me permission, please.
All right, there you go.
All right, I am gonna share this screen. Awesome. Is everybody seeing Sea Sparkle Cove by Biz? Awesomeness. Okay, we're going to spend roughly 12 to 15 minutes each on these as the conversation dictates, and give everybody plenty of time to chit chat. I will maybe call on the panelists to kind of get you prompted and get you engaged. So let's get started here. I'm assuming all these panelists reviewed this project, so everybody has something to say about this. So I'll go around in a circle. Lewis, you're up first. What do you got for Biz on Sea Sparkle Cove?
Sure. I've got 3 screens up, so I have my notes off to the right, so forgive if I'm not looking directly at the screen. I wanted to say that I thought it was a great approach to a retail store. A good job, great presentation. The descriptions and the lore buildup let me really get a sense of what you were trying to create, and it reminded me of many installations that I've seen across the ocean. So if you've been to Tokyo Disney Sea and seen Ariel's Grotto or the Sleepy Whale Shop, it reminded me very much of kind of utilizing that content and environment. And also, if you're familiar with Route for Nature, is a visual installation in Montreal, which has a strong environmental message, which is quite powerful. It had a very strong storybook type of delivery, which could launch an IP and the augmentation of an existing theme park. I felt that the business model and the reality of the project, it demanded a high throughput if this was a standalone concept, from a financial model. Can be sometimes challenging and difficult from a repeatability standpoint, trying to kind of keep that, viable. As currently described, I thought one of the things you need to think about significantly was the importance of understanding the why of the project. If you want to substantiate it as a standalone project, it's a highly competitive market, and its repeatability is necessary. And if you look at projects such as the Rainforest Cafe as an example, that's a food and beverage installation with a highly themed retail supporting element. So it depends on how you're pitching the project, but I think that importance of why, looking at this when you pitch it as a standalone installation, if this has a powerful business model, that's important to look at overall. I think it's a successful presentation, and thanks for the opportunity to look at it and comment on it.
Awesome. Thank you, Lewis. Tina or Logan, you're welcome to jump in. Biz, again, at any time, if you want to raise your hand or unmute and jump in, please do.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll jump in. That's all right.
You go ahead,
You go
Logan.
ahead. Okay. 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 Uh, so, yeah, I really love the use of technology to enhance and extend the retail experience within the Sea Sparkle Cove. Now, one of my notes was since this is a show writing package, I wish there was more of the actual show description script for Effervescence. Like you covered a lot more, but that particular show, since this is a show writing package, I wish there was more of that. Um, I can't help but make comparisons to the Disney Store and to Camp's Little Mermaid experience, which are two very different guest experiences. And one of the questions I had for you is, will this store provide a more traditional shopping model, or is it a limited access timed entry model to better control the guest experience like the camp experiences are? So just, once you're done getting feedback, I'd love to hear your reply to that.
Biz, you're welcome to jump in if you like. Oh, are we hearing Biz? We are not hearing you, Biz. I'm not hearing you. Check your microphone input on your Zoom options, possibly.
Can we hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. You know what? I had trouble connecting the right headphones when I was logging in, so I should have assumed my audio was the same. Thank you so much. I hadn't even considered about it in those terms. And I love a pop-up, so now I'm wishing I had. So yeah, I don't know. You just gave me something to think about. I kind of like that business model better than more of a permanent fixture, especially since it is more experiential, not just retail only. So thank you for mentioning that. I will consider that going forward.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely do some research on Camp and their whole business model for retail because it's really, really cool what they're doing.
Awesome. Tina, you want to jump in on this?
Sure. Yeah, and my notes are on a separate screen as well, so forgive me if I'm not making some eye contact. I thought this was a charming concept, and I found myself kind of smiling as I was reading it, and at numerous points throughout the presentation, actually. And I really appreciated the level of graphic design throughout this to kind of sell the concept. Like that really kind of helps tell your story, and it keeps the reader engaged, especially because you guys didn't have the opportunity to present this to us live. So that just makes it easier for us to understand your project objective. Some things to consider is how to make the space maybe more appealing for young boys as well, right? We don't want to kind of cut off that demographic. The My Little Pony brand, I've worked with them before too. They have a huge following with little boys. They're called bronies, right? So maybe you have mere dudes in this concept, just to kind of include that demographic as well. And since this is a retail space, I think I would think to offer physical items for purchase at the Mermaid Mirror space, like makeup and crowns and tails and things like that, and maybe consider a party space with some face painting and costume play and photo ops. Like I can imagine like groups coming here for a birthday party, and then there's retail opportunities attached to that as well. Some things that I would caution against are bubbles. If they're media based, great. If they're real, it's a slip hazard. I've tried suggesting that in numerous spaces, and operators are always like, no bubbles. So if it's media based, great. And then, is there a storyline conflict with a call to action to keep people coming back, similar to what Lewis and Logan are saying? Is there a villain? Is it a character that's formed by plastics pollution? Things like that. And then, all of the items in your store could be biodegradable, right? There should be kind of a call to action with kind of keeping the oceans clean, and things like that might be a way to kind of bring people back in if they're collecting things to keep the oceans clean and things like that. But overall, I thought it was charming and very well put together.
Awesome.
Sorry, I was writing some stuff down before it jumped out of my head.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can I ask bigger picture questions now, or was there someone
Please
else?
do. Yeah, go for it.
Great. Well, first off, thank you all so much for these notes. I feel like based literally just on what I've heard in these few minutes, there's so many like simple but effective ways to kind of elevate the concept. So I really appreciate your insight on to how to do that, and how I can apply that to other projects going forward. I guess one question I have is, how does this work in terms of like a handoff deliverable, if that makes sense? I feel like I love working a Word document. I could put everything in text on a Word document, and I've realized that other people do not work that way. So I'm trying to get better at presenting things in a way where if I hand it to the next person, they're getting the information they need versus just like, this is too much text or too much information. So yeah, I guess advice on that aspect of it, if that makes sense.
Well, I can say that I work a lot in concept. That's mainly what I work in. So a lot of the concepts that I design kind of are handed off, whether it's within our company for SD and DD, or another company is taking it over. I think what you've put together here is great for, pre-concept, high level idea, and even concept, along with the sketches that you've done. As Logan said, if there was a little bit more development into the ride hardware or software that's used in the effervescent show, and you know what, clients of mine always prefer like visuals, and I fall into the trap of being too text heavy. But that's almost something that's useful to the interior teams, to the SD teams, to further develop your concept so that everybody's kind of like on the same page there. So yeah, I think what you've put together is great for a concept package for like a small retail environment.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
I would add to that. I would say it also depends on how to what Tina's saying, where you're looking at using the package. If you're using this as an investment deck, it's a different kind of approach, where you want a 12-page kind of executive summary that kind of puts it together with a high-level financial package. If this is going to be a standalone, you want to seek sponsorship, partnership, or you want to seek investment with that, it's a different approach. So kind of understanding the different audiences that you would hand this to are very important. If you're going in the FOREC model, which typically does like master planning and concept design and then hands it to someone else to execute, it's a great, as Tina mentions, kind of a very high level concept package. But if this were at Universal, for example, there would need to be an architectural package with that. There would need to be a show element list that needed to be included in it. You would need to have a technical script associated with this. Knowing the audience that you're delivering it to, you want to tailor it to those types of adjustments and who you're dealing with. In the case of my company, we typically won't take on design work unless we're going to follow the project through to fabrication, construction, and operations. Some businesses in our industry sell concept art. Some do concept packages. Some do production assets. We function typically as like the executive producer of a project, where we take it and shepherd it from financial development through operation and turnover, and then potentially to kind of, I would say, franchising or operational expansion in that model. So learning as you gain experience in the industry, trying to expose yourself to those different sets of models and how to articulate your concept in that gives you a broader range of ability to express your idea to different audiences in ways that you can tell the same story, but adjust the package to fit those different use cases.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
That is all an excellent overview there. Heidi, I just want to double check. You weren't assigned to review these projects in this session, right? I just want to make sure.
I wasn't, but my background is doing project management for retail, restaurants, guest services. So this is right up my alley.
Nice.
I won't take a lot of time on it because the other panelists have really done a magnificent job of discussing it. I would love to chat with you offline and give you a little bit of my insight on it. My first thought is there's a lot going on here in a retail store. And in most cases, particularly in theme parks, I'm sure you're familiar with the word dump. The idea is that you get about 15 seconds coming out of a ride, an attraction. You can capture them in that short period of time to basically buy merchandise. This is all about ROI when it comes down to it, and retaining that memory and retaining that experience. There's a lot here. I love it personally because I vacillate between being a guest and then being a designer, and being a guest and being designer. So I would love to go a little bit more into what you've done here. And again, it comes back to, in many cases, what's the ROI on this? There's a lot going on, and time frame. Is it coming off an attraction? Is it a standalone? So yeah, let's connect. Thanks. Thank you.
I would love that as well. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Heidi, for jumping in, and sorry to put you on the spot, but I figured you
Not a
can.
problem. I have coffee. I'm good. I can do that.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, so we're just about out of time on this one. Any last thoughts or questions for you, Biz?
No, I appreciate the time you took to delve into this with me. Thank you so much.
Great. Don't
So
forget
I
to
have
connect.
just some notes for everyone.
Yes, MK, it's your turn. Jump in.
Thank you so much. First of all, Biz, it's clear that you have worked professionally, right? Like your manners are extremely adult, seems like a weird word to use, right? But like you are on point, you're professional. So well done you. But notes for everyone on all the teams across all the panels. We're giving you feedback that presumes you were a team of like 25 to 200, right? And this, for example, is just a team of one. So understand that that's the lens we're looking through. In many instances, in most instances, we're certainly not expecting you to have done all these things, right? But just understand, you know, as Louis was saying there, this is how the industry would do it. And you don't have to be good at all that things. Get a larger team. But we want to let you know the full depth, breadth, scope, and scale of some of these things. You would need a partner to do the business analysis to push this off. Also, particularly in the day of AI, it needs to be super clear which pieces of your presentation you did and if there's something that anyone else contributed to, right? Because you pitch yourself as a writer here, and the graphics are really nice. Did you also do the graphic design?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so either it's just about accreditation, right? It doesn't matter if you did it or not, but just make sure it's clearly attributed. Like these images where you have by the way, merchandise, gold.
Thank you.
The image with like all the little pictures of stuff, pillows, and like those are clearly images you grabbed from somewhere or AI generated. So just make super clear everything is properly attributed so that there are no questions.
Perfect.
Great notes. Thank you so much, MK. Especially the note about being clear about what you did or what you didn't do, because you want feedback on the parts that you did do, because that's probably the career direction you're headed, right? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to get Megan on up next to make sure that we can get you out of here to get to your final exam, Juan, and then we'll line you up right behind Megan. So Juan, you're on deck. Megan, this is your project. Is that True Universal Brazil Resort?
Yes, and it is an academic project.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So here we go. I'll call on people so we don't step on each other. Let's make it easy, but I'll go random this time. Logan's up first.
Sorry to interrupt. I submitted 2 projects. We actually already reviewed this one. The one for this session is the Searching for Bigfoot, the ride experience.
I gotcha. That's why I was confused. I didn't
Okay,
see.
yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, my
Good.
bad.
I was about to say, I don't have any notes.
Yeah, my bad. I didn't see your name on this one, so I got mixed up. Okay, here we go. Searching for Bigfoot. Logan, what do you think?
Hey, yes, I was going to say project management. I definitely have something to say about this one. One of the notes is just when it came to review and like the points based on this project, because many of the review criteria are not explored thoroughly in this very detailed project plan. The score may not be super high. So just throwing that out there to start with. But one of the notes I had was that I wish the paper included more references for how you generated your budget estimate. So for instance, what are these numbers based on? what all is included in the categories. For instance, I assume the cost for the roller coaster is lumped in materials, but that is not necessarily clear in the breakdown. Let's see, some of the other notes I had is uh, for your schedule. So you got it to where 8 years. And one of the notes I had is that is a very long time in our industry. So I was curious, how did you come up with those dates, for instance? And then now one of the notes I have is that I actually gave you a high rating for your use of technology because of your use of Google AI to generate what was shockingly some pretty accurate breakdowns, which reading your paper kind of blew my mind, how accurate some of your breakdowns were and what Google AI was able to generate in your research for this paper. So those are kind of the notes and questions I had, and would love to get your feedback once everybody else has had a chance to sort of put their 2 cents in. Overall, though, very, very nice start for what would be a detailed project plan.
Am I
Thank
okay to
you.
jump in?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you so much for your feedback. I have actually followed you on LinkedIn for a really long time, so this is really cool that you're reviewing.
Awesome.
And so it's interesting because I'm actually an MBA student, so like my last project was also a paper, so a lot of the panelists were like, does this really belong here? And I was really unsure, but still submitted. So I agree, low score. Honestly, I'm not even in it for the score, right? Like I just am excited to hear you guys' feedback on this. And
That's
it's
the
cool
right
that you're the
attitude.
project manager. Yeah. And so
Awesome.
this project, I actually used Microsoft Project and it was based on like my project management elective. So that's how I came up with the 8 years. It was based more on like what guidelines that my teacher was giving me. But I lost access to Microsoft Project, so I took that part out, which is probably why there's like pieces of this missing. Um, and yeah, so I think that answers that question. And then yeah, the AI. I actually took an AI course also, so it's good that like universities are teaching that now. So it is really cool like what AI can do, and I'm so glad that you said that it's accurate because I obviously like did not know that for sure. So it's great to hear from you.
Pretty accurate. Not exact, but
No, I
and
get
that's
that.
why like I also wanted to know more about the sort of the budget estimate and what these numbers were based
Mhm.
on, because uh, some of the numbers it's just like, what is this generated from? Like
Mhm.
AI may be able to give you like a big number, but then the breakdown costs, that's where I just a little more curious on that.
Yeah, so that also like was not a part of the specific guidelines for the assignment. That was like an extra
Right.
thing I threw in. So I definitely agree. I could have probably done like more research and like found more on how to get those accurate numbers. So I agree with you.
Awesome. Who wants to jump in and add to this conversation? Let's go to Tina next.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, Megan. Thanks for your submission. Uh, yeah, this submission was based mainly on project management, which is a little out of my wheelhouse. So my comments are more based on the overall concept and guest experience. If you were going to kind of polish this up a little bit, from the concept storyline perspective, I did have concerns with some similarities to Disney's Expedition Everest, which has that kind of Yeti theme. So I didn't really feel like it was totally unique in the workplace right now. But I think there's opportunities for you to make it more unique by celebrating kind of the legends of Bigfoot in differing cultures, because different cultures might have different legends about seeing this kind of Yeti or Bigfoot or creature in the forest, and maybe that can be celebrated and explored along the queue before you actually load onto the ride here. So I thought that maybe that could have some development. In terms of the budget allocation, I thought maybe there could be more of a need for media development in the queue and the dark ride portion in lieu of relying just on physical props. I always think that the best rides have kind of a mix of media and physical props, and the physical props are almost better when you don't have too much time to look at them, right, and pick out the little faults and oddities about them. So if it's along the ride path where you're just quickly moving by them, or it's kind of like a scare along the ride path, I think that's where they're most effectively used. Um, and then in terms of the schedule, again with Logan, 8 years I thought was too much. Typically, especially for just one attraction, typically a concept level for us, if it's an accelerated, is sometimes for a whole park can just be 4 months. And then and that's excessive, maybe too little on our end of it. So I would rely on Logan's more expertise there. But yeah, 8 years is definitely too long. But overall, I thought it was well thought out, and kudos to you, because the project management is a tough game. I rely on all my project managers to kind of keep me on track and keep me in line in terms of deliverables. So it's an important job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. Lewis, what do you think?
I think it was an excellent narrative describing an early career phase of project management. I think your ability to capture and articulate that shows a thorough understanding of you entering the craft, and you're really well positioned from a career standpoint to get started. In my career, I started as a sculptor, then became a project manager and project director from a number of years before returning to doing creative and being a producer. So it's really important to understand, the whole life cycle of your project and your knowledge base. And I'll put this out there for everybody. I'm a real favorite of the generalist, a person who becomes knowledgeable in all the other skill sets to enhance your specialty and what you're doing. So the more you know about the other facets of design or retail or financial modeling or creative direction or fabrication, gives you the benefit of kind of really enhancing what you're doing, especially as a project director. Understanding the skill sets and the applications of all of the team members ensures your ability to drive the project, really effectively. In that context, I would say there were some things that I thought were key elements for you to think about from a project director standpoint on the project. As Tina mentioned, the concept as articulated may have an issue from an IP standpoint. So while Bigfoot is public domain IP, the way the project is articulated sounds an awful lot like Expedition Everest and Matterhorn bobsleds. So you may want to differentiate from that. I would say there's an important understanding of the way you've articulated the ride system, having done a number of themed and interactive coasters myself. This is a very difficult type of experience to articulate on a roller coaster at speed, because the nature of a coaster moving at speed is you have very limited vantage points. You're moving in 30 to 50 miles an hour and you're looking forward. Everything's kind of blurred to the side. So the need is to kind of think about, like, when we designed and delivered Revenge of the Mummy, there was a dark ride section that had some of the story elements in that. Or if you're using audio, like when I did on Rocket, where you're, timing all of the sequences to each of the moments of the coaster, even though in that case we were using commercial music. Or Transformers, where we're looking at the view shed and the environment around the ride. Or Logan and I did Reese's Cup Fusion together, where that is a media environment that you're moving. Oh, that's a dark ride. It's much slower. But the images that you've used, it's important to understand kind of things off to the side are often difficult to see. And it's one of the issues with the $25 million now Static Yeti and Expedition Everest, its position on the ride track. I would say that hold on a second, looking at my notes. I just want to, you want to make sure in terms of scheduling, as everyone's mentioned, it's long. Just to put in context for you, a typical attraction at Universal has a 24-month concept to completion kind of window, right now. There's a big push when they're lifting an attraction, it's 24 months. So when they're going to rebuild it a second time, that's concept to completion. When it's usually a new prototype attraction or a complete theme park, it's 60 months, typically now in the industry. To what Tina's mentioning, when you're working in China or Saudi Arabia, they want a complete theme park in 24 months to 36 months. You know, it's a much faster, higher burn turnaround. So 8 years would be typically unheard of at this point, unless it's a launch of a new concept. So we're currently engaged. I can't say what the project is, but we've picked up a project that's 4 years out. That's an original IP, new type of indoor experience. That right now is probably the longest schedule we've had in years to go from concept to completion on that. And we're serving in the role on that as the executive producer and lead consultant. They've already spent 12 months doing conceptual design and feasibility. So they'll be, you know, a much longer lead for a kind of single point of attraction than we normally get. But great job, and you have a really bright future ahead. You know, it's lots of opportunity for you out there. Everybody's looking for great project managers. They're hard to find.
Thank you so much, and that's great to hear because I'm looking for a full-time job soon.
Megan, I think you're going to find one. Okay, we do have a couple more minutes if anybody else wants to jump in, or Megan, if you have any other questions. I'll jump in real quick and just maybe +1 on Lewis's note of how difficult it is to take in story on a coaster. I may be in the minority, but I don't feel like Hagrid's is very clear at all in terms of storytelling. I love that ride. It's an amazing coaster, but I can, every time I ride it, I can't really follow the audio. And so I can't really follow the story. Like the mix is maybe just a little off or something. It's a pretty big challenge. Still an incredible ride.
I agree. I always wondered if like I just had hearing issues, but I can't hear the audio, so I didn't know if that was just me.
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure what's going on.
There's a big conflict between the creative group and the operational group about the level of audio. I tell you, having been a Universal employee for a very long time and having done Rocket and Transformers and others, when you go to the attraction the first 3 weeks to 6 months that it's open, the audio is typically much higher in volume. The operators tend to like to turn it down because they're concerned with hearing issues with the ride or the audience. And it's a fascinating situation where generally the audio level drops 50 to 60% after the attraction is open based on the operator and safety considerations. It's very hard to balance that thereafter, you know, unless you have a strong show quality program, which Disney excels at and Universal is weak at, to kind of maintain that show understanding. It gets lost from operational control.
Yeah, that's a great note. Thanks, Lewis. Okay, well, we're going to put a pin in this one, Megan. Thank you so much for submitting, and best of luck to you on your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Good luck on your test.
So next up, we'll go to my home team here from the entertainment design major at Ringling College and a collaboration with a graphic design major. This is Encore. Juan is representing a team of 4, I believe, on this project. And so thank you, Juan, for being here today. And we will open this up to the panelists. Let's go. Tina's first this time.
Bravo. I got actual chills like during multiple parts of this presentation. I thought every aspect of it was well thought out and clear in directions. So good work, team. I love that you started by stating the prompt for the project or high concept idea so that I knew what to expect at a high level, right? It kind of engages the viewer, especially since you can't present it live. So I kind of knew what to expect, and it engaged me and got me interested in how you were going to develop that kind of in your following slides. I thought it was a highly polished presentation with dynamic showcase of the hand-drawn concepts. That's something that a lot of our clients are looking for, right? They want to be included in the design of things. So quick little hand-drawn sketches to convey your idea makes them feel like you're not spending a whole lot of time on like model work or key art or something before they've had time to comment on it. So I think that that's key to have in your presentations. But of course, you do need kind of the 3D modeling and the renderings right through to brand marketing. I thought like you touched on every key part of this, so the retail opportunities at the end of as well, I thought were really great. Special kudos to the graphic designers. I'm going to say that wherever I see it because I come from that background as well. Every part of this presentation had your core look to it and incorporation of the industry lyrics with regards to wayfinding, walk this way. I laughed out loud at that. Like, if you can get me to do that in a presentation, then, you know, gold star. I love the idea of using the lighting to symbolize the crowds of people. I was like, I'm going to keep that in the back of my head for one of my projects a little later on. And then so the Decades Unplugged, I thought maybe during that room you could have had a different color treatment based on the decade. So I didn't know if like maybe pastels for 60s or neon for 80s and grittier colors for 90s, just to differentiate kind of the process through the decades of the different genres of music. And first gigs, I thought maybe it could look a little bit more like a real garage or a CD bar. When I kind of went back and was looking at the presentation, it maybe had a little bit too much of a similar look throughout. So I thought maybe it could have been broken up a little bit that way. And then one question I had was regarding the sequence of the rooms, because I wasn't sure if paparazzi could have been paired more with Hellscape, because I know there's like when a band first gets signed and maybe there's like a marketing blitz for them to kind of showcase them to the world, and then they're in these concerts, and then maybe it devolves from there, right? When there's like Scandal and paparazzi and Hellscape. So I just was a little bit unsure about the sequencing there. But overall, I thought it was highly polished and professional, and I felt you took me on your journey, and so well done.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all. By the way, and yeah, I had a great team to work with. The graphics obviously amazing. And yeah, that's a good question, and that's sort of a question that we also had. Should we combine all the, you know, Dark Side of Fame together into one room? And that was one of the ideas. Eventually, we went with having it earlier, simply to show that it's not all the dark side of Fame comes together. It's like gradually happening until it becomes too much. But yeah, I mean, that could have worked better too. And yeah, thank you for the other notes. So I'll definitely keep it in mind.
Awesome.
Well
done. Thank you, Tina. Lewis, you want to jump in on this one?
Sure. I thought it was a visually stunning presentation, you know, on a professional level. I think that, you know, it is on par or exceeds a lot of things that I see people develop and deliver, and that this is, you know, very close to being a marketable concept. Interestingly enough, we were recently asked for One Times Square to develop something around specific IPs. So I think it's a very timely and articulate project that you could market, you know, quite strongly. I would say that when you look at your business model and whatnot, licensing for this would be very challenging. And I say that from having done Rocket, which I had to license all of the musical artists for the Rocket Coaster. Just to put this in context, or you don't realize this, but when you go to license music, you have to get at least 4 licenses per song. You have to get likeness, you have to get the writer, the publisher, and in many cases, you have to get the different samples that are engaged in a particular song. And you have to get synchronization when you're going to put it in an exhibit or you're going to put it with other content. And synchronization is the most expensive of the licenses because you have to go through a lot of approvals with that. With primary artists, it's not a problem, but with rap artists, it's very complicated. So for instance, I tried to get 50 Cent songs approved, but each song required 150 licenses given the nature of the number of samples in his song. So that is one thing to think about when you're approaching delivering, you know, a pitch for a project like this. Music is an incredible platform to unify people. You know, I think it's interesting that you articulated the dark side of the experience here. I thought maybe there was having a couple sections on it. When you deliver this to the general public, you want to end on a happy note. I know at the end it's kind of a eulogy here, but I think you want to think about the nature of how heavy or pervasive that is, 'cause there are several sections of the exhibit here. So I think when you think about the flow of information, kind of what Tina was saying, where could you put paparazzi or something? You want them to have an emotional content and feeling. You don't want to overwhelm them with it, because there seemed to be kind of a lot of that sensibility with that. And then I would say I really loved how you used Hotel California, you know, the hell aspect of that. Spatially, I thought the light field was beautiful, but maybe a bit too large, you know, that one section of the exhibit there. And you would want to look, I think, some really great installations for you to look at to kind of build on this. Borderless in Tokyo has a lot of different kind of elements that you could deploy or leverage, you know, insight from or inspiration from to build on this exhibit. But I really think you guys have an interesting model that this really could go on the road. You know, there is a future for this as a deployable project if you could get it together. And I like to see you keep going with it. I think it's very exciting and has a lot of opportunity. Great job.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Let's, Logan, you're up.
So did I read this correctly? This whole project was done in 1.5 months.
Yep.
That's insane.
Thank
That's what impresses me the most about this whole presentation is just what you have been able to accomplish in such a short amount of time. And so like literally all these 3D generated videos, everything was generated in 1.5 months, or was stuff done afterwards to prepare for this?
The only thing that was done afterwards was the operations and just the formatting of this website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be
Wow.
the only thing.
Wow. Yeah. I love the originality of the designs. Graphic design is my background. So yeah, seeing all that is incredible. The overall concept of what you've done, making it so different when you compare it to a lot of the other sort of rock and roll museums and music museums, it really does take a very different twist on it. It reminded me more of kind of like the Pop Culture Museum in Seattle. If the entire, museum was dedicated to rock and roll. So I really appreciated that and the creativity. From a logistics standpoint, there were some of the stages where it was written in that you'd be able to like go up and stand on stage and sing and things like that. I imagine would become very problematic from a guest flow and just also like when you're trying to get people through a museum, was this museum, is it really intended to be almost like a timed experience where you are kind of shuffled along from room to room to room and given a limited amount of time? Or is it just like a typical art museum where you just come in, you pay your fee, and then you can just mingle and go from scene to scene and spend as long as you want in each one of the exhibits? So that was like kind of one of the questions I had as well. And you may have covered that in the paper. I just have forgotten. But yeah, definitely on the touch and the interactivity aspect, those were just some of my concerns in regards to the space and the use of musical instruments, because the reality is they'll get destroyed in no time. So with the way guests interact with things. So that's sort of my main feedback. And really, I mean, Tina and Lewis did such an amazing job covering all the other details. So kudos.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those are great notes. Definitely the operations and whether it's a post-show experience or not, that's something I kind of noticed afterwards doing the operations. So if we had had more time, maybe obviously that would have gone before the design. So I guess it's kind of a mixed experience, but for sure that would cause issues. So that's one of the things that I would change in this project, and I'm sure my team would also would have loved to design that more. And yeah, the Seattle Museum was a huge reference for this, so I'm glad you caught that too.
Awesome. Thank you, team. Does anybody else want to comment? Any other questions or comments from you? We are good on time.
Yeah, I guess the other question, and this is thinking about future projects that I'll do, especially our thesis, is so as creatives, I feel like my background is especially in concept design and production design. So the creative side comes easier, but then I also like to give it a sense of realism, like operations, and probably even budget and estimation, just feasibility in general. And that's something I struggle with because my background is not in estimating and production to that level. So I would love to know what resources do we have to produce that content as well and give it a more real sense and give our projects a feasibility study.
Yeah, Lewis, please.
Well, I would say, well, I mean, well, I would say that's the nature of many of the challenges we face in the industry. You know, there are a lot of people very excited about the creative aspects of what we do that want to be concept artists or want to be creative directors or they want to do concept design, you know, blue sky especially. Everybody's excited about becoming a blue sky artist. I would say what you're doing right now is instrumental. You know, when you kind of connect with folks like myself, Tina and Logan and Jamie and others, you have to begin to use those resources. Networking is essential to expand your purview and to meet with others and be able to ask for their insight or to recommend others to talk to. And again, as I mentioned earlier, being a generalist, I think, is an important foundation in our industry. You know, when you understand that an owner comes to you and says, I have $10 million to design an exhibit and I have 2 months with which to do it. For you to be able to run an estimate in real time, to be in the ROI or the what we call an ROM, you know, rough order of magnitude, to ensure that your budget is on target. You're not designing something that's out of range, that you're going to use 3 weeks of your time doing concept design and shoot way over and not be able to deliver the project on time, is really important. Operations is a challenge for all creatives. They don't innately understand operations. They don't engage with it. I would tell you that I think one of the single greatest things that you can do as a creative is to go sit in a museum or a theme park. Do not walk around, plant yourself at a table and just watch for 3 hours and move around a park for a day, 3 hours at a time observing. You will see things that don't innately, you know, connect with you, like understanding the relationship between a ride, a bathroom, and a retail store, or seating areas, shade areas. How do they operate in a great park? How do they continuously move people through and understand the movement of individuals in a given space from a spatial relationship standpoint? How do they move people in and out of buildings in an effective way? And then go to a bad park and see how poorly it's executed. Those kinds of observational exercises only happen in the field. You know, you have to gain that through observing and seeing that. And even difference by culture. Like if you see parks operate in Europe and how the guest audit interfaces in a park, or Americans do or Asians do, will vastly increase your observational awareness of those things, or even just operational differences. So give you like a really low-hanging fruit example. Water parks in the United States all close at 5 or 6. They don't operate at night. In Asia, it's the opposite. You know, most of the parks, you know, they operate during the day, but Asians don't want to be in the sun. But they have these huge night festivals and light shows and laser shows, and it's a whole event experience at night. And that's just a cultural difference from an operational standpoint and a delivery difference. So, you know, having an opportunity wherever you go, and I do this in every project I do, every city I go, definitely go visit everything that you can. Like, be open and a sponge, go to museums, go to retail stores, go to malls, go to special events. All of those things become input on that. And then, you know, reach out to folks like us on LinkedIn when you have a question. And I'm always happy to help wherever I can add some useful insight, or hope it's useful in some way. And many people in the industry, even though they'll sometimes act like 007 and they want to like act like everything they do is a special secret, which is absurd. Most people are often willing to help, you know, answer questions or recommend someone that can be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Lewis. That brings us to time on this one. Thank you, Juan, for squeezing us in, and congratulations on your current success at your current internship. I hope you have a great meeting at 1. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
I'll just thank you, Juan. Just a quick follow-up to Logan's question about how long it took to do this, simply because it came through our program. I will say that Juan and Tia from our major and Ivy and Daniel from the graphic design major are top students. They work twice as hard as everybody else I've ever seen, and are dedicated. So if there are any other students on the call, maybe, and this is a team project, and so that's important to note as well, right? The size of your team is going to increase the amount of output you can have. So if you're working by yourself, don't be discouraged when you see bigger projects from bigger teams. That's just, multiplying power there. Also an important note to consider collaborating, right? This is a great collaboration between 2 different disciplines that stay in their lane and they make each other better. So if you're in a program where you don't have multiple disciplines, maybe reach out to another school, or maybe there's another college on campus that has a different area that would be good to complement your work, and consider multiplying your abilities as well by forming a team. Lewis, you were going to jump in on that real quick.
I would
Sorry.
just say, stay in touch. I would hire you guys. Just with what you've done as students, and you're not even at the graduating level, you have huge potential, and it would be exciting to engage with you guys in the future.
Well, Lewis, I think you're too late. I think those folks are all spoken for already, even though they still have a year to go. You're gonna have to arm wrestle some people for these guys. Awesome. Okay, so
I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Juan. We're gonna roll on, and let's move on to Escape from Wonderland, an escape room experience. Who, remind me here on the call, whose project is this? Raise your hand. Here. Aha, Krista and John?
UT's project, TXT-PED.
Awesome. Okay, great. Wait, did I hear UT? MK, you know something about this? Sweet, hook 'em. Okay. Who
I
wants
know all the things about it.
to? So it's probably amazing. Let's go with Logan first this time.
All right. So just right off the bat, I love seeing a project fully executed. So to you and your entire team, major kudos for not only conceiving, planning, and constructing this escape room, but also for operating and documenting the experience so thoroughly. That is awesome. I love that. The overall budget and profit margin look very impressive, but it would be more realistic if it also included the labor costs for the design and fabrication of this experience. So that's something that oftentimes when students are budgeting, they only factor in cost related to goods purchased. But in reality, when you're budgeting, you always have to factor in labor as well. So let's see, I know one of the comments I had with the overall presentation, just from a grading standpoint, is there were several typos. And just in regards to professionalism, if you were to present this to any kind of company, typos they happen, but when there's multiple of them, it starts to become a bit of a distraction. And sometimes it can create an unfavorable impression just based off of some misspelling. So definitely make sure before you're submitting anything professionally, just to double, triple check little things like that. And really, just overall, I loved the absolute creativity and teamwork that went into bringing this escape room to life, because really this industry, it's all about teamwork. So there aren't really solo artists, if you will, in themed entertainment, because everybody has to work with other people to bring it together. And so to be able to achieve that, kudos again. So impressive to see something actually accomplished start to finish with a budget and with real world parameters to it. So amazing job.
Here. Let's see. Let's go to, we're gonna ping pong around. Lewis, you're up.
Sure. Well, I wanted to say, I thought this was an outstanding proof of concept for an escape room designed and executed based on an existing intellectual property asset. I really deeply appreciate that the team took this from start to finish. I mean, I can't express enough how impressive that is and how beneficial that is, going through the complete project life cycle. I think it was really fascinating that it was a multifaceted experience, which I thought was highly beneficial. In terms of that, many of the key items, like you touched on everything, which I thought was so impressive, was writing the guest experience arc, the motivations, problem solving, show set design, fabrication, technical animatronics, operations, and overall management. Now here's where the trick, because some of the notes I have now are at a different level than they are for other presentations, because you've taken it so far. Then there's this expectation, okay, the notes have to be delivered at a different kind of level. So what I would say to you guys is, from an area to improve on in the future are middling. So your financial and feasibility model could be, of a greater level of depth, particularly feasibility if this was going to be sold or executed in that way. And then I think to the same point that Logan's making, I thought that for the quality of execution and delivery, the audio of the delivery was weak in some instances, which took away from the quality of all the work you did. So, with the tools you have, you want to elevate that in terms of articulation and story delivery, because I think, again, each thing that you do as you elevate the overall experience, then it enhances things that you see that could be elevated to kind of take it to the next level. So I would just say, if you can enhance the audio component of that in your delivery, would be outstanding. And really, just congratulations, you guys, on delivering all of these elements together. It's a compliment to you and what the team at MK is doing in the environment there, because annually gotten to see the team kind of delivers a complete concept to completion, each year. And it's really powerful benefit to the program, to the students, and to the industry overall. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Tina, what do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I'll mirror what Lewis and Logan have said. I was so impressed that the team was able to develop their concepts right through from concept through, SDDD, construction, and operations. That's something that I don't even think I've worked on a package through construction documents. So to see that time lapse of you guys building the room out, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I love the fabrication of the Cheshire Cat animatronic. I thought that was so impressive. I would have loved to have seen a video of it working, even if it wasn't working, just to kind of, so I don't know if I missed that somewhere, but I would have loved to have seen that. In general, I was a little bit confused with the flow of the presentation, and I thought it should have started again with that high concept idea. That's that one-liner to kind of just tell us what your project objective is, and to create interest so that we're like fully engaged through the rest of the deck. Then you can follow that with brainstorming section, the storyboarding, which is just loose sketches and text, concept development and planning, design development, construction, and then your final video. So you're building up to kind of like that last video of how this all how these visions all turned out. So just some little things there. Overall, I was so impressed, and I think it really shows your team kind of all the opportunities that are available to people working in themed environments, right? Some of you may want to work with blue sky concept work. Some may pursue, jobs in operations. So like Lewis said, it is very much a team, and I think you guys got to experience it all in one project, which is great.
Awesome. Krista or John, do you have any questions or comments for the panelists? Please chime in if you feel.
Do you want to go, Krista? Would you like to say anything?
You can go.
Okay. I think the best part about this project, every project, on this project specifically, I was more of a floater, like helping out. I was responsible for a lot of the story stuff. Krista was really the person that spent the last 9 months doing an incredible job. And I was more of the person that was just kind of throwing ideas all over the place. I advised people to like watch I'm going to bring it up, Krista, the 1990s Alice in Wonderland show on Disney Channel. That is not lost media, it's on YouTube. And that was like a big inspiration for what I wanted the project to be. I just wanted to say that so that it could be shared again, that how much that meant to me. But yeah, I think the best part about TPED and just this industry as a whole, but specifically this org, is that we get to bring things to life. It's very unique. There are not a lot of orgs out there that are able to do what we do because we have so much cooperation, not just with engineers, but with people in fine arts, people who are we have a costume designer now. You like look like we had a costume designer now in the org who's brand new, who we love so much, who's now our set dressing lead on our new project. And I think that's the best part about it, is how very interdisciplinary a lot of our projects are. And also when you have really good leaders like Krista, it's just, you're in good hands. I'm the new project director for our upcoming project, which is like a haunted escape room, very werewolf vibes. But yeah, it's just that's the best part about these, is just how everybody gets to work together and bring something to life. I love TPED. So yeah, and thank you guys for inviting us.
Thank you, John, for all of that. We appreciate it.
This is the part where I yell at John because he's really much more amazing than he is letting you to believe. But this is more Nana advice for everyone. This is a student club that's on campus. There are TEA-inspired Themed Entertainment Association clubs, hundreds all over the world, mostly in the US. Find one on your campus if you like. But one thing that John especially did really well, the team has participated a few times. Don't compare yourself to what you've seen from other teams, and especially what you've seen from your own school. A lot of what we see, there's several student design competitions from Toronto to Imaginations, University of Florida, Swamp Thrills. The students who try and compare themselves or copy what they've seen done well in the past, unless it's spelling, don't let that bog you down, right? So the team that graduated a year ago or maybe 2 years ago was up to their eyeballs in mechanical engineers and electronics. So a lot of buttons and switches and lights and things. And then the next group was much stronger in story and gameplay, and they spent way too long comparing themselves to the other guys. So they ended up with a Risk board game based kind of experience. So it was very analog, and it just was brilliant, right? So just remind yourself what you're good at. And John was our little he was wearing chainmail. He was our host through that board game experience because that's what he does well. So copy best practices, but do be you.
Great note. Be you. I'll throw a note, or maybe some congratulations here for turning a profit on an experience. That's amazing. I'm certainly jealous. Here at Ringling College, we do not really have built into the curriculum the experience to take these concepts like that encore rock and roll concept all the way through to a built experience. The students have taken it on themselves to design and build a haunt now every year. So okay, we're starting to turn up the production value on that. But we're losing so much money on that. Our college hasn't even figured out how to charge a ticket price. Like, we don't even have a mechanism to collect a ticket price. So congratulations, MK. I'm calling you later to figure out how you do it. Because yeah, to stay in the black on something like this, kudos.
Well, and when we tell that story, we'll tell how they didn't for many years, and then how they figured it out.
That's it. That's the learning. There you go.
Really good marketing. As long as you get it out like months in advance, like surely somebody will, tell their friends and stuff.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people in the org like tell their bosses about it, and then they turn it into like a kind of team building experience. So marketing goes a long way.
Do you do all of the students who attend, do they all pay a ticket price, or is it free for students but a fee for guests? Like what's the model there?
Everyone has to pay for a ticket pretty much.
Oh,
yeah. But I just wanted to thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Sorry for the typos, But yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking time to look at it. It was a really amazing project. I'm super glad I got the chance to work on it. It was kind of just like my friend asked me to be the project manager and I was like, sounds cool. And it was really an amazing experience just getting to see it come from start to finish. I definitely had my doubts, but it was an amazing team of people and I'm glad we pulled it off.
Y'all
Right.
did an incredible job, and the real world experience, it's invaluable. So it really is. So kudos. Amazing job.
Very true. Yes, agreed. And thank you, MK, for a quick mention of TEA and NextGen. If your school doesn't have a NextGen chapter and you're interested, I dropped a link in the chat. You could reach out to me. I'm on the NextGen committee, and I could help you and your school get a chapter started if you like. And at the TEA, we are also trying to think of ways to get TEA NextGen clubs from different universities connected, so that maybe we could see more collaboration on things like these. So, so if you're interested in participating in that, which you should be, please reach out or please visit the teaconnect.org website.
Listen, Texas A&M called me 2 weeks ago, and if we can unify UT and Texas A&M through TEA, the world is a better place.
I think you have about as good a chance as any through themed entertainment to bring those two worlds together, because it's not going to happen on the sports field, that's for sure. Awesome. All right, team. Well, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much. And let's roll on to the Crimson Warp.
Hey, Jamie, can I
Yeah.
interrupt here with a
Please.
spoiler alert?
Yeah.
Now I want to disclaim that I have I have the scores on my desk. I have not looked at them. Dr. Jesse Cam has done all the scoring. He knows the winners. Those winners will be announced on Thursday at the end of the next session. I will put out this teaser that there is at least, and this is from Jesse, he just texted me. So he said at least 2 of the winners are on this call. Okay, the top scorers. So I just want to throw that in there.
All right. That is enticing news. Okay, so whose project is this? Please remind me. Are they on the call here today?
Yes, we're here. It's me and Eric Johnson.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you, Rihanna. Is Eric on the call?
I'm right here.
There he is. Eric, thank you so much.
Nice
Sweet.
to meet you.
Okay. Crimson Warp. Who wants to go first on this one? I think it's Tina's turn to go first.
Sure, great. So yeah, I was intrigued by the overall concept for this theme park. I thought there was a good effort to study the initial steps with regards to the site location and the RD&E zone. The landscape design strategies that have been warped to create visual interest using native plants rather than using species that are not native to those zones. I think that that could be an operational concern moving forward, because then you're just hiring people to take care of plants that are not native to that zone rather than, you know, using native plants in a more creative way, like whether it's in the planting strategies and things like that. I thought, you know, how have the food offerings been warped? I was just like a little bit confused by showing kind of the traditional food offerings to people that might already know what those are. So it was just maybe having a look in every part of this park at how it is being warped, right? Because that is the general concept for the theme park. I also asked, you know, can Denny chimes be made to transform throughout the day? This way you're kind of leaning into the idea that everything warps the closer that you are getting to it, because I wasn't totally familiar with a lot of the architecture. So I thought maybe showing some mood boards with what those environments traditionally look like and how they would be then warped would create a little bit more interest and make this more of a unique immersive environment. And then I thought the presentation could have been better by developing high-level concepts for each of the themed zones. I was still kind of unsure about what those would be. And then maybe even showing a little bit of development for a signature attraction within each of those zones. I think that that could have been used to just create a little bit more of a fulsome snapshot of the overall park, rather than just maybe focusing on the RD&E and then saying that that was to come later. So I thought it was kind of good initial first steps. I think there's lots of potential here. And yeah, I'd love to see kind of further progress on it.
Awesome. Thank you, Tina. And let's see, let's go to Logan, you're up.
All right. So some of the notes I had is if each of the lands were based on one location and one time period in Alabama, to me, it would make more sense from a conceptual and a visual storytelling standpoint versus having the buildings on your main street being so visually fragmented by the time periods, the way it's currently sort of depicted in the pitch deck. The videos of the Denny chimes and ziggurat were helpful to see your intentions with these structures. And one thing that could improve the viewing experience is if you 3D printed some people at the same scale and added them to the model. So that's just a good note for all students whenever you're doing, and this is a note I got from George Head when I was at SCAD. So like having just a scale reference goes a long way when you are creating a model, because then it just gives you a better impression of how big or how small it's going to be. And then another note I had is just as you continue to develop the park, I'd love to see how the concept and the visual style is further refined within the different lands, like Tina was mentioning, where there's much more that can come from it. And this is just sort of very, very high level, and would love to see it continue to get fleshed out and get more of those details and more story building. And like she mentioned, the different rides and what can be added to just further define this overall space. So those were my main notes.
Great. Thank you, Logan. And Eric and Rihanna, you're welcome to jump in at any time with questions or comments if you like.
So if I can start, well, first of all, I definitely appreciate y'all being here. We certainly have a lot to do on this project. This is supposed to be a multi-semester long, maybe multi-year long project, with each semester being working on a different land. So for this semester, we mainly focused on the entrance and the sort of hub, sort of the main street area, But our main goal with this project was to kind of, if we were to put it into a marketing phrase, just to be like, to bring the South to the rest of the country and to sort of maybe alleviate some of the negative stereotypes of the South. But just to kind of bring the culture of Alabama specifically to the rest of the country. And we did that with a twist, as y'all can see. We added the whole warp thing towards the end of this process. We originally kind of had it just normal Alabama themed, but we decided to go with this warp because we wanted there to be some sort of twist. Specifically with the chimes, something happened with the chimes to make the rest of the park look like this. But as far as questions I have, how effective is that central focal point of the chimes? Like, how effective is that in bringing the whole park together?
We'll chuck that one over to Lewis, who still has comments to deliver as well. So there's a segue for you, Lewis.
For sure. Well, I want to say that, upon reading and going through it, it's a wonderful sense of pride in exploration research for a localized kind of project. I think localization is a powerful aspect of our industry that's not often leveraged enough when we're delivering things. But there is also, to your point about the narrative journey and the story, there are also some challenges with that. When we think about the industry has struggled in some cases with projects like California Adventure, as an example, or Dixie Stampede, expositioning that elsewhere, in Orlando, as an example. But strong aspects of that, when we look at the storytelling that convey those elements, such as what Hershen Family Entertainment does, are able to export kind of the nostalgic elements of those localized stories in a way that are approachable to a large demographic of individuals. So when you think about your story and what you're delivering from an overall arc, what I would say to you is, and this isn't often discussed in our industry, but how much mental real estate is in a cultural element that you're sharing externally? So I got a real sense of interest by you guys in the tower and the ziggurat, obviously through the model and the execution of the engineering elements of that. But some of those understandings of how to articulate the essence of Alabama's power in sports and entertainment, which I think holds mental real estate nationwide, is one of those things that you may want to explore more, and how you want to articulate building that brand and what that emotional context is and what the nostalgia for that is, to expose people to that. There's other iconography that you might want to look at. Think about, like, for example, Mount Rushmore in the Dakotas as an example, what that iconography is and how to articulate that. In the application, you ask about the tower. So you will hear the Disney organization talk about a weenie very often, which is the central icon in the park, or an object that's built in destinations of the park, like their mountains, to people see a visual icon at a distance to draw them to an object. So when you go to the Magic Kingdom and you see the castle, that's drawing you to the center of the hub and spoke concept. And then when you look and you see Space Mountain and you see Splash Mountain, those are objects that you're aware have a ride system in them that you're being drawn to by light or architecture. Or when you go to Hollywood Studios and you see the Tower of Terror, when that was built, that was a dead end part of the park, but they built the tower at the far end of that to draw people to that area. Or when a coaster is built, they kind of move them around the areas of the park to force flow dynamics. How do we move the population to these areas? And then that point before about looking at a park and its relationships, each time they build that icon now, they're usually building 2 to 3 attractions. The current model on the big owners is to build a high concept prototype attraction, then a kind of mid-tier attraction, and a lot of food and beverage retail around it, and a themed environment. So when you look at Epic, even though there's only 11 rides really in the park, they developed that concept in mind that each land has 2 attractions and a lot of food and beverage supporting it. So when you think about what you're doing, this vertical object or this icon is drawing you to each of those areas as you develop it. So for you, it's a focal point when it's by a highway to see the tower to draw people to it, as an element to advertise the concept of the park, from a transportation standpoint. And then I thought that in your case, the warp was being used as a Deus Ex Machina story standpoint. It was kind of being forced. You're trying to shoehorn a concept into a certain degree. So I think that to Tina's point about the sentence, and I think this is true of everything these days, and it's something I'm really weak at, is the one sentence that a 6th grader can understand to articulate the whole concept of a complex idea, a story, a narrative, an experience. Everything these days has to be delivered in a 3 to 6 second, 6th grade level story concept that reads out. And I think for you guys, that's something you want to, as you evolve this concept, you need to work on that more and kind of make the story flow in an effective way that I'll say value proposition is truly delivered upon in the guest experience.
Excellent. Thank you, Lilith. Appreciate that. Logan, you unmuted there real quick, just checking in.
Yeah, there was just one more thing I did want to add after listening to everybody's feedback, is when we were talking about other parks for reference as well, like parks that have done it really well. When you look at, for example, Busch Gardens Tampa, this is supposed to be Africa in Florida. So when you're doing your research, like, these are the parks you should be really researching. Six Flags Over Texas, the original layouts before just all the other things started getting added that aren't necessarily related to Texas, but those early parks, many of them are great examples of either sort of a love of a park in a particular region, like the Six Flags Over Texas in Texas, or in the case with the Busch Gardens in Tampa, this great example of Africa being brought to Florida, or you have Williamsburg, which you were talking about putting this in Williamsburg. Well, that's Europe in Williamsburg, Virginia. So like these are really great examples of existing parks that when originally conceived had this very strong notion of bringing other places to a totally different location, or just as examples of highlighting sort of the love and the history of a particular place like you're trying to do here with Alabama. So I would definitely say in your research, as you continue moving forward, look to some of those parks as just sort of references. Don't just copy kind of what they did, but just use it as a great reference and inspiration.
And maybe, the whole idea of the Crimson Warp becomes a themed zone and not the overarching narrative for the whole development, right? Because you want to showcase and educate people all about Alabama. Maybe that's your RD&E zone. And then each of your theme zones ends up being specific things about Alabama, whether a theme zone based on the music or one based on sports. And Crimson Warp is like the fantasy version of it, where things are all off kilter. That kind of may help you to kind of convey your message and love for the land, and all the different aspects of it become the theme zones. That's an option.
Awesome. We are just about out of time on this. Any last questions or thoughts from Eric or Rihanna on this one? Give you one last chance here.
Wanted to say thank you for critiquing our project. This was the first time we've done this type of project about an actual theme park. All of our other projects have been very like animatronic based, very small scale. So this is the first large scale project we did. So thank you so much for your feedback. We will definitely use it going forward into the next semester and what we do going forward with this project.
Yeah, and just a reminder, talk to subject matter experts. They love to help you. Do not buy a book on the history of Alabama. The Glockenspiel is delightful. Thank you, Nate, for sharing that. Contact somebody who's a subject matter expert. Disney did a whole bunch of secret projects with nonprofits. And we did 2 at the city of Birmingham, Alabama. And it was surprising what they thought they were, what we thought they were. There was an interesting self-esteem issue, right, that we had to work with. So what we ended up with was not at all what either one of us done alone. So just raise your hand, ask for help. If you don't know who that is, ask any of us. Like, we have pretty good Rolodexes and we might be able to point you at somebody. And don't be scared to ask. People love talking about the stuff they love about.
This is true. Thank you, MK.
And I would just like to say thank you again for your feedback. Our team is mainly consisting of engineers, much to my chagrin. I'm not an engineer, so we definitely have a lot of work to do on the non-technical side of things. So I definitely appreciate help with the story and all that. But yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. All right. We're clapping for you, and we're going to move on to Mysteria. Do we have any of the creators of Mysteria on the call with us here today? Whose project is this? Anybody? I think Nate, maybe you told me this was from a Korean group.
Yeah, she's actually in the chat right now, and she says she can't,
Oh, I
she's
see.
in the dorm and it's 3 a.m, so she has to
Yes.
chat.
Yes, 3 in the morning over there. Thanks for joining us at 3 in the morning. All right, let's get you some feedback.
Yeah, they're here. They're listening.
Awesome. And John, is this your project as well? See, John chimed in. Great. Oh, there you go. Okay, awesome.
He
Supporter.
said hello.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, who wants to go first? I think maybe it's Lewis's turn to go first on this.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, I thought this was a really fun and enjoyable blue sky concept or reimagining of a theme park lander zone using, I'm assuming it was an overhead-based dark ride system similar to Peter Pan's Adventure or Sesame Street Spaghetti Space Chase, which I think Logan might have worked on. which is a project at USJ, like ET. As an early blue sky concept, I thought it had a lot of promise. The concept needs, I would say, a bit more detailed written narrative or description to be fully understood. Each of the elements and components with that. I got a really clear sense of vision for the spatial layout and the scenes, but the why and understanding of the story, perhaps better put, is understood by the team and what they wanted to achieve than maybe I understood in the presentation that was articulated. I would recommend taking the story and narrative and scene explanation further as the project moves forward. I thought there was a good understanding of that. And I thought the character development would be necessary to launch this as a successful original IP. I'd love to see this go further.
Excellent, excellent. Tina, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought this was a good initial theme for the attraction concept. I thought there was maybe a little bit more effort required to communicate it in this presentation. I found myself questioning, are you looking to redesign the kid zone at Lottie World? And then again about that high concept idea, and I found it. It's buried on slide number 5. Because you had stated, as visitors explore the recreated 19th century World Expo, they stumble upon a hidden corner concealing a mysterious laboratory and are transported on a thrilling journey to a different timeline. Put that right at the front. That way we all kind of know what your ride is all about and what your story is gonna be all about. And then we're interested in delving a little bit further into how you're gonna do it. I thought you could maybe use just some simple bubble diagrams for the space planning at this stage. I thought it was very detailed for something that's kind of like an initial pitch deck about what this ride is going to be. And then again with the storyboards, just to convey your storyline, just a simple sketch. It can be very rough, a napkin sketch with a couple lines of text, and then maybe just a key plan about where you are. In the space planning for that was probably enough to kind of convey your message. So I think it has potential and just needs to be maybe cleaned up a little bit.
Excellent, nice and concise, Tina. All right. Logan, what are you thinking?
All right. So the part of the proposal that I like the most is this idea of expanding the France section from the upper floor down to the floor below. While it could be problematic to remove an entire section dedicated to small children and replace it with a teen/adult focused area, if that is Lotte's top demographic, then it would make sense and could provide more revenue streams with retail and dining options that you have built in there. So that it's like, at least if you're getting rid of one thing, you're bringing in something that has a nice ROI. So one of the notes I wanted to add is that the creation of the Dr. A character is another variation of Loti that is a very fun addition to the park and provides, again, an opportunity to sell steampunk themed merchandise such as Dr. A's top hat, which would go very well with the rest of the merchandise that you would find at Lotte World, particularly the abundance of different headpieces that they have there. So I really love that addition. And with this one, I think one of the biggest challenges would be the removal of a kids section for a park that is so family focused. And then the other challenge becomes as well the incorporation of the existing French Revolution coaster that basically goes right through this section, and then having to work around that, especially with some of the how it may be grandfathered in some ways to when it was built in the original days of the park, to now making all these changes around it. There's going to be a lot of complications from just a structural standpoint with an indoor theme park. So there would be a lot of considerations to take in with something like this. But I love where you're going with this. I love the idea, again, of expanding the existing France section and building it out more. That's a really cool concept, and I'd love to see you guys develop it more.
Awesome, amazing. Anybody else chiming in on this one? And via chat, are there any questions or comments from the creators? I will add briefly that through my work with the TEA, I learned that there is a new, somewhat next-gen type group developing in Korea. I think we're calling our Asia partners something different other than next-gen. I think it's like Students and Emerging Professionals Group. Yes, SEP, yes, awesome. Or if you're involved in that group, then this is redundant. But I can, oh, great, you are in the group. Okay, awesome, great. Keep going then, congratulations. Okay, well, we'll wrap this one up then. Thank you for staying up till 3 in the morning. Yes, Yoon, founding principal of that group. All right, awesome, you're in the right place then. We're all in the right place. So we'll clap for you then. Great project. Thank you so much. And thank you to the panelists for this one. And yeah, we're going to move to, I guess this is our last project for the day. Is that true? La Disparate, Tides of Time. Let's see, whose project is this? Aliyah, Sophia, John.
Well, Logan, I get the sense that you're in Korea at the moment. Perhaps that student and you could meet and have a coffee at some point.
I can't say where I'm at, but I'm contacting her right now in a direct message.
There you go. Okay, whose project is it? John. I see there's a John on the call. This must be your project.
Hello.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you, John. And Sophia, I see you there too as well. Awesome. Amazing. Okay, great. So let's go to Logan first on this one. Yep, no problem.
Sorry,
Sorry,
it helps if I unmute, you know.
There you go.
So this was a really interesting original concept for a half-day immersive park. With only one ride, this park will have a larger appeal to guests looking for LARP experiences that make them a part of the story, and for guests looking to be entertained by live performances. And in many ways, it reminds me of what I'm going to totally butcher the pronunciation, but Pour de Foy, their experience, which I don't know if you've done any research on those parks. They're doing incredible immersive experiences that really are much more about performance than they are about rides. So what you've created here, it really reminded me of what they're doing, and there's a lot of potential here as it continues to get fleshed out more and more. But I think you're off to a really great start with this whole concept, and I would love to see it continue to get developed.
Thank you.
Excellent. Tina, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I thought they did a really great job of establishing the high concept idea and of course and developing that backstory and the character profiles and the overall sense of place here. I thought that a lot of work was done there, and it's starting off really well. I think it needs a mood board maybe to show the look and feel of the built environment, which maybe showcases the different places in time, and perhaps they're all kind of mashed together to create more of a unique space. And then I was hoping there could have been a little bit more development of the dark ride attraction. You know, maybe you pair that with a super flume ride to tie in the theming with some sort of a thrilling guest experience there that ties into the idea of this being an undiscovered island. And they could use some media and technology to lean into the idea of you being in different worlds that are all kind of colliding. So that could have bumped up the score for criterion number 6. But I think the backstory is really great, and you've kind of started all the really strong legwork for it to continue further.
Yeah, thank you. Admittedly, it was this. Most of us aren't like super versed in themed attraction, but like we come from other fields of entertainment. Like Sophia is more engineering focused. Aliyah is a bit more graphic design focused. I'm somewhere in the middle between just like hopping between backgrounds and major changes. So like it's just we decided to see what stuck on the wall, and we kind of just stumbled onto this idea, and we just ran with it.
Well, that's good. A lot of these teams everybody comes from different backgrounds and they bring different strengths to it. And sometimes that's where the magic happens. So good for you guys.
Agreed on that one. Lewis, what are you thinking here?
I wanted to say that I thought it was an excellent presentation in world building. It seems like an attraction that could be translated as a standalone attraction or be incorporated as a part of a larger land in a regional theme park. In terms of what Logan mentioned, Puy du Fou is obviously very much a show experience park. There is a group, I just pulled it up, called Twin Mass, which is a LARP community in Los Angeles, which would also be another really powerful installation point for you. And they have a very different business model than any other kind of themed attraction. It's a collective of individuals who pay a ticket for a weekend experience. It's a 48-hour immersive experience that they do, and they have about 600 participants each weekend. That goes from, they do it once a month, from a Friday night to a Sunday morning, where they go do a complete immersive experience, which they have many characters and stories, and people have roles within that context that I thought might be a great reference point for you. In the context of delivering this, you've looked at menus and other things. Again, I would emphasize, as I've said in many of the experiences today, looking at the financial plan for understanding how does this work as a standalone attraction? How does this model from a throughput capacity, gives you a sense of what that works or makes sense by. And I would say there was, let me look at my notes here. I want to make sure I get this right. I felt there was a disconnect somewhat between the planning and design document and some of the things that you presented in the YouTube presentation. There were some elements that I thought were missing from 3D modeling, or those components that you clearly developed that I saw in one piece of content that were missing from the presentation that I thought would help facilitate that better. I felt like the character arcs were interesting. I would recommend a bit more information on the technical, ride, and operational side to balance out what you've done from world building to make it a more cohesive overall presentation. I thought the writing and idea were well presented, but you need more meat on the bone to kind of balance it out overall.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for the feedback. It's mostly just because this was this was an academic project over one semester, and it was just like the framework was that we wanted to make a land as a part of a bigger park. So admittedly, we were a little out of our depth when it comes to logistics or numbers. If anyone would like to have a chat about it with us, I at least would be more than happy to sit down and have that proper conversation. But no pressure or anything. Thank you for the feedback. We'll keep that in mind.
Excellent, John. Thank you. Sophia, any thoughts or questions? You want to jump in on this? Uh-oh, we're not hearing you.
Sophia, we can't hear you.
The Zoom audio. That got me the other day on a meeting on a computer that works 99% of the time. I jump in, I could not get Zoom to hear my audio.
Oh man, we
love
love
it.
those.
If
it's not 100%, then it's 50%.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, John got it. Okay, great. Yes, we love Zoom. That's right. Okay, what would we do without it? I guess we'd be using Teams. Okay, any last thoughts on the disparate tides of time? Good.
I don't want to call these guys out specifically, but another note from Nana for everyone. A lot of folks chose what they felt were thematically consistent fonts in support of their story and theme. They're impossible to read, right? So just really think about legibility first, fancy ancient English script second. Also, again, across the board, diversity. Where we do see humans, they're white and they're mostly male. So do a better job about diversity, both in terms of reflecting who the story is actually about and who your guests might be. Your guests need to see themselves reflected in the stories they tell. So, and that shouldn't be an add-on. Oh, we're going to throw a wheelchair in, right? That should be from the very beginning. Accessibility and diversity. first of all, it's just the right thing to do. Second of all, it earns a lot of money. So we've got it through all those lenses.
That is a great note. Lewis, you were also going to add a note, I think, there at the end. I just want to make sure we don't miss you.
I was saying to John's point, anybody wants to talk, again, reach out to any of us. We're happy to. And to add to MK's note, I would also say, think about cultural relevance when you're talking about when you're populating your images, your content based on where your destination is. Make sure not to do anything that's stereotypical in a way that would be seen negative. It's interesting. We've been doing a lot of work in the recent years in Saudi Arabia, and it's really owner dependent on kind of what the garb is. In some projects, they are upset if there are not traditional attire in the images, and other ones they're insistent there is no traditional attire in images. So it's important to kind of, when you're engaging with the client base and understanding, articulating in the images what you want to do, and ask questions about that along the way, because sometimes it's not really even related to your content. There'll be a reaction to the population in an image or how they're approached that can influence the reception of a design. So that's important to think about in terms of what you're doing. And again, it also depends on where you're working in the world. And I would say 90% of our work is international. So we don't work very often in the United States these days. So it depends. China, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, those other regions of the world are different engagement points in terms of the way you are delivering work and what the population is that's engaging with that. And to be open, receptive, and ask questions to ensure that we are not interpreting our cultural aspect locally in other places. It's important to be very attuned to being respectful of other cultural norms and elements as you engage around the world.
That is a great note. Thank you so much, Lewis and MK, for that great teachable moment. Those
It's
are
also like sometimes like it's legit like how would you know these things? High School Musical #classic. When it was distributed overseas, they had to add a few more buttons to the shirts, just like one or two. I once had to draw a life jacket on a dog because he stood on his hind legs sometimes and behaved like a human, and his helmet had to be clicked. He was an adventure dog. That's why he needed a helmet and a life jacket. And I also had a student group who, in an attempt to be more connected to the community, did some research on the primary demographics in that area. And then they themed some ride vehicle animals. You know how Woody had Andy's name on his foot? They did something similar to that, and they put Muhammad on a pig. So, right? So all the old farts are like, what the what? And so I'm glad we caught that. But like, I was asking myself, would I have known that when I was 19? So it's not just about colors, cultural, holidays, religions. It's about all these little subtleties as well. So just raise your hand and ask. Most of you have groups on campus who can help with these insights.
excellent. This is very true. Okay, that wraps up all of our project reviews for the day. We have a few minutes left on this 2-hour call. If anybody wants to use those minutes from any of our panelists, any of our students still on the call, Nate or Jesse, if anybody wants to have any last questions or thoughts, floor is open for a few minutes. Anybody? Okay. That's a happy summer wrap on that one. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, students, for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you all on Thursday for the last review and the announcements of the winning projects. Everyone, have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.